background, your experience, and your platform.
Well, I am the new blood, as the North Shore Now said, and I think this is important. The new perspective that I would bring to the school board is really vital to ensuring a vibrant school district now and in the future, and to make sure that we continue to deliver a very excellent education. There is a need, particularly in these extraordinary times, for us to question, to gather information, to think about the approaches that we are using. And they may be very different than the approaches that we've used in the past. And we need to creatively collaborate on solutions. That is how I operate. My finance and legal degrees virtually compel me to answer and ask questions all the time, as my son would tell you, and my husband. They help me to listen, and they help me to obtain the information necessary to make thoughtful and sometimes very hard decisions. I also have young children in this district, as you've heard, and that fact, too, gives me a different insight from many of those currently on this board. I'm usually seated where you're seated, and I've sat there and thought to myself, I'd like more communication on district-wide issues. I'd like to make sure that the community was brought more into the decision-making. Phillips has done a very nice job of making information accessible to us about the village board. I would like to do a blog similar for the school board, so people would know what the issues were. Here's another idea. Why can't we have board members informally assigned to schools to ensure that there's a direct link of communication between the school board and to the members of that particular community? I have the energy to do this. I am the product of public school education. My mother is a public school teacher. And on the strength of my education, I had the opportunity to attend Harvard Law School. That's part of my story. I want all children in our district to have their own success story, in whatever way they choose, because of the excellence of the education in this district. And that is what I take as my charge.
Thank you. Jim, what sets you apart from Ann?
Take a different fact and feel that in this election, the experience is really the most important factor. Public education is going through a lot of change at this point in time, and I think that the most effective board members are those that are really up to speed on the issues, that have been here and understand the system. No change occurs in a vacuum. Constructive change requires analysis of our strengths, our weaknesses, the opportunities that we have, and it involves creating an action plan that's going to result in a better outcome. And at least in the short run, we don't have a lot of time to make some very significant adjustments that are going to be required, and I think over the next couple of years, they're going to be even more significant. I've been on the board for 6 years, and prior to that time, I was on the board of advocates, essentially getting up to speed on a lot of issues. And running a school and a system is a relatively complex system. I'm up to speed on the funding formula, which I think is essential in order to understand school finances. I understand our contracts, the Chapter 220 program, how we meet our students' needs. I understand our cultural competency issues and experience. I understand staff hiring, staff development, facilities issues, as well as enrollment issues. Outside of that, I do have a significant amount of experience in organizational development. I've been in private practice for 30 years in a business law firm involved in the tax and corporate area, been on a number of boards for nonprofit and for-profit organizations. I understand what the board is supposed to do and how we can provide guidance to the administration. We can also act as an intermediary with the public, and I consider myself fiscally aware. I mean, I operate on the assumption we need to balance budgets, and we're stewards of the dollars that our residents give us, not dollars to which we're entitled.
Maria.
I've been on the board for 6 years now, along with Jim, and I've been president for the past 2 years. What being president and being on the board has allowed me to do is really build relationships with stakeholders. I've developed a relationship with our superintendents and with other board members, collaborating and bringing everybody together to try and make well-thought-out decisions. I have relationships with the administrative staff and other community stakeholders. And in the beginning of my first year as president, I felt it was important to start collaborating with the village board, and we've made some moves to try and work a little more closely with the village board. As Jim mentioned, as Mike mentioned, I have 4 children, that have all gone through public school, and 2 of them are still in high school. And I have really had a great opportunity to volunteer in all of our schools, from K-4 all the way through 12th grade. 2 years as PTO president. Recently, I was the January POP co-chair. Holy cow. That's a lot of work, but great opportunity to really work with the kids, to see what's happening in our schools, to get to know the teachers, know the administrators. It's been just invaluable to have that kind of experience. And so when I am making decisions at the board level, I really can see how that relates to children and how it will affect teachers on a day-to-day basis. I'm the owner of a successful business for the past 23 years, and I understand budgeting in tough times. And those difficult decision-making opportunities that I've had in my business also translate into how I work on the school board. The experience that I've had as a board member and as president of the school board will really help me as we move forward into strategic planning. I just think it's a time when we don't need a learning curve. We really need people who are ready to work immediately on strategic planning that will set us up for the future.
Very good. Our